Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Italy, and it's not that often that I get to review Italian beers for you here on the channel. I really wish I could review them more regularly, but we just don't tend to get all that many of them in Scandinavia, and indeed back home in Scotland either, but my experiences so far have been pretty positive. They always tend to come in big bottles because the Italians treat craft beer a little bit like wine, it's for sharing and so on, and they're quite into their sour beers as well, which isn't surprising considering the fact that Italy is primarily a wine country. But yeah, so for this review we are going to head to the Turin area, Torino as you would say in Italian, and we're having a taste of another beer from Birra Baladin, who are probably, I think it's fair to say that these guys are one of the best known Italian craft breweries. But this beer is particularly interesting. This one is the Birra NazionAle, and it comes in at 6.5%. It's a blonde ale, golden ale type thing, and from what I understand, this beer was one of the first craft beers, if not the first craft beer in Italy that used 100% Italian ingredients. So it should be a really interesting one for us to try. My experiences with this brewery in the past have been very positive, so hopefully this is another really quite nice beer, and I'm looking forward to trying it, so I hope you guys enjoy my take on it as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Birra Baladin before. Hopefully I can add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Italian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Birra Baladin then. So as I've told you before, Birra Baladin are based in a little village called Piozzo, which is very close to Torino in the kind of northwestern part of Italy. But this company was founded by Teo Musso, who is a native of Piozzo village, and originally they started out as a cafe and bar back in 1986, selling many different types of beers from across the world, but then in 1996 they began to brew beer for themselves. So the original brew pub that they have is located right across from the town hall, and it takes its name from the French word baladin, which refers to a travelling minstrel, and this name was apparently chosen because the village are quite well known for, the people of the village were known for moving around mainly between Italy and France. But the main brew operations that they have now take place on an old farm premises which is called Coda, and apparently this farm was damaged during a flood in 1994, but Teo bought the land and restored the buildings to house a brewery, and the hope was when they took over that they were going to produce 45,000 hectolitres of beer per year by 2020, and from what I understand they are on target, and I think actually maybe even exceeding that initial estimation that they had. But they also are producing bread and things like that, and they want to produce other things as well. They opened up this brewery to the public back in 2017. These days though, they're quite a big company actually. They've got a lot of different things going on. They've got various bars, restaurants and cafes throughout Italy, ones in Bologna, in Roma, in Torino, and also in Milano as well. They've also got a bar in Torino Airport in the departures area that you can go and have burgers and things at too. They've got small brew pubs in Roma and New York. They've also got some hotels and resorts as well, which is quite interesting. This is the Casa Baladin in Piozzo, which is just a little hotel. There's the Baladin Zanzibar, which is in Tanzania. That's a kind of sort of semi-autonomous island, which is meant to be very nice actually. There's the Riyadh Baladin in Essaouira in Morocco, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and they've also got the Italian Alley in Camden Village in London too, which is meant to be pretty good. It's 5 railway arches that have been converted into restaurants and beer bars and things like that, so that's something that I will need to check out at some point as well. But in addition to beer, these guys also produce some soft drinks. They do ciders, they've got a few spirits as well, and they've also got their own distribution company which is called Selezione Baladin too. But Teo Musso, interestingly, is also the chairman of the Italian Beer Confederation, which is basically an organisation that goes abroad and promotes Italian craft beer in different places, helps breweries kind of expand and things like this. And as of September 2019, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 73 different beers. I was a bit surprised at that actually, because you know, if it's a brewery that's been around since 1996, so these guys are 22 years old now, I would have thought they produced a few more beers than just than 73. But I mean, at the same time, you know, the Italians, I think it's fair to say, are a little bit traditionalist, you know, when it comes to wine and things like that, and food production. They like to, a lot of these methods and things are sort of passed down the generations, so it's not overly surprising that you know, the recipe development takes them a little bit longer. But if you look through the timeline, the historical timeline on their website, they've been introducing new things like IPAs and stuff like this that are a little bit more kind of adventurous and things like that. As I told you earlier, my experience with Italian craft beers tended to be that they were, you know, they were sold in these big 750ml bottles like this one, but they were also, a lot of them were sour beers and things like this. Some of them were Belgian style beers as well, actually. They tend to like, the Italians seem to like things that are very, very traditional. But I think it's fair to describe these guys as one of the bigger craft breweries in Italy, and probably one of the better known Italian craft beer brands when it comes to foreigners like me. But yeah, I think that's all you really need to know about Birra Baladin for the moment. The actual company itself, I believe, is called Baladin Agrico Beneficio or something like that. The parent company now, because they've got all these little kind of offshoots and things like that. There is a parent company, but we will just call this beer review Birra Baladin because that's the brand of beer. But yeah, if you want to learn more about this company, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. That'll keep you up to date with all the latest goings on. And I would recommend that you check out the Rate Beer and Untapped pages as well if you're interested in all the different beers that these guys have. There's a good list of them there, and of course they have they've got lists of these different beers on the website as well. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, the interesting thing about this beer is that it's 100% produced with Italian ingredients, or produced with 100% Italian ingredients, I should say. I should get my English correct when I'm doing these videos. But this beer was first introduced back in 2011. It contains 100% Italian ingredients, so the malt comes from Melfi, the hops are from Cuneo. The yeast is a Baladin house yeast, and it contains Italian coriander and orange peel as well. And I think it's meant, I'm sure that I read somewhere that this beer actually has a little bit of bergamot in it as well, which should be quite interesting. But yeah, cool to come across a craft beer that is 100% Italian in that way. We don't come across too many beers that have Italian hops and things like that in the rest of Europe, so this one is pretty cool. But like I said, we got this beer in Sweden through the Små Partiers in Systembolaget on the 20th of September 2019, and I thought, I haven't reviewed Italian beers for a while, it'd be cool to have a go at this one. And as I say, I've got a couple of other beers that you'll see me review over the next little while as well. But let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork before we open it up. Like I was saying to you earlier, you will tend to you'll get quite a few breweries actually that sell the craft beers in these sort of 750ml bottles. I mean, they are big beasts. This beer actually weighs quite a lot, but you can see the glasswork on this one, the Birra Baladin glasswork. But yeah, nicely presented. You can see 100% Italian. They're obviously quite proud of that, and you can't really blame them for that. But there you can see the little top label there as well, and there is the Birra Baladin bottle cap on this one. So yeah, really nicely presented. So without further ado then, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. The other thing that I've noticed about this beer is, I don't know if this one was bottled in 2018. It's saying that it says Raccolta Luppolo 2018. So maybe it's just hops from the harvest in 2018, something like that. And I think it says it's best before April of 2021. That would maybe suggest to me that it's been bottled in April of this year, and they're saying that it will last for 2 years within the bottle actually. So I'm not sure what to expect of this one. I read on Rate Beer that this was a Belgian style blonde ale, this one, but we'll have a go at it and see how we get on. That's all we can do, eh? Oh, it doesn't want to open up. That's the thing, is they like to use bigger bottle caps. This bottle cap, of course, is a bit bigger than your standard ones, but you can see a nice little bit of smoke on the opening there, and we'll get this guy out and into the glass. Probably also worth mentioning, I do speak a little bit of Italian. Io studio italiano per mio anni finali a scuola. Ho visitato Italia con I miei genitori per l'anno 2008, and can't remember how you would say, I hope I can go back there, but the Italians were always nice. We have got a few, I don't know if it's right to call them Italian immigrants in Scotland. There are quite a few families of Italian descent in Scotland. Quite a few of them came as prisoners of war during the Second World War and things like that, of course. So there are quite a few families that have an Italian background in Scotland. It's a beautiful country, that, and the people are always very, very nice. And of course you've got good food, good wine, and nowadays good beer too. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, and as you would expect from a blonde ale or a golden ale, whatever we're going to call this one, we'll discuss the style of this beer as we go into it. You can see it's poured a lovely bright golden yellow straw colour, this one. There's about a half finger of a quite bumpy white head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty nice. Nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider that it is a blonde ale, golden ale type thing. So yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this beer. Oh yeah, right. Straight away with this, you can see why people would refer to this as a Belgian blonde. If I was blind smelling this beer, I would definitely think that this beer was a Belgian style blonde. The yeasty qualities just push their way out of this one at you straight away, which is quite nice. I love a Belgian blonde beer. Leffe is one of my kind of go-to beers, to be honest with you. It's very easy to get in Scotland in the supermarket. Not so much here in Sweden, but if I'm back in Scotland and I want a sort of sessionable beer, I would always go for a bottle of Leffe. But that smells absolutely lovely. I really like that. And I mean, if you think about the, it's a craft beer review, right enough, maybe it's not right to talk about the lagers, but one of the things, even if you think about like Menabrea or Peroni and things like that, the one thing that you could always say about the Italian beers was that they are very drinkable and very sessionable. And I don't know if that's just because generally Italy is quite a warm country, and they like their beers to have that kind of crispness to them, but you can feel the aroma of this beer comes across as being very fresh and very crisp, and I've found that's a general thing with the Italian craft beer, Birra Artigianale, as they call it. But I noticed that straight away. The one thing that you will always pick up with Italian beers, it's just the crispness and the freshness that you'll get out of them. But this one smells really nice. So I mean, straight away with this beer, you're going to smell that nice white bready base to it. It's got that lovely kind of, it definitely has a little bit of that kind of Belgian doughy yeasty quality. There's a little bit of banana, clove in there maybe as well. Maybe even a little touch of like a peppery spice or something. It definitely has a little bit of that. I would definitely say there's a wee bit of banana coming out of this beer. And it's almost a little bit apricotty. It's banana and apricots that are coming out of the malty, yeasty side of this beer as well. On the hoppy notes, little teensy bit of earthiness. It's almost kind of similar to a German noble hop quality, but you've got a lot of nice floral aromaticity, a good bit of a fresh grassiness as well, which again is kind of what you would expect. But like I say, on the fruity side of things, out of the yeasty side of this beer, you've got that banana kind of backbone to it. You've also got a little bit of that. You've also got a kind of perry and apple-y ester coming out of this one too, which is kind of what you would expect from a Belgian blonde, to be honest with you. Like I say, it's a 100% Italian beer, but I think going by the aroma, stylistically this is like a Belgian style blonde beer, this one. I would definitely say that about it. You can definitely get a little touch of the coriander out of this one. And that's probably one of the things. It's the malty yeasty side of the beer has a little bit of a spicy quality to it, and you can pick up the coriander. The coriander notes that come out of this beer, to be honest, are actually a little bit sweet, which is kind of interesting. So that's a really interesting point to make about this beer. Not getting much in the way of orange peel, I would say, though. So that is one of the other interesting points about this one. But generally, this beer comes across very similar to a Belgian blonde such as Leffe or something like that in its aroma. It's got a lot of the same kind of characteristics you'd expect of that. The malt base and the yeasty qualities are a little bit sweeter, I would say, but it's got a lovely kind of hoppy freshness and some nice fruity qualities as well. It comes across as a very fresh kind of sessionable beer, this one. So without further ado then, let's just have a taste of this and see how we get on. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this beer. This one, as I say, is quite unique because it's 100% Italian ingredients, but let's have a taste of it now and see how we get on. This one is the Nazionale at 6.5%, a blonde golden ale. Smells very much like a Belgian blonde ale at 6.5% from Birra Baladin in the northwest of Italy. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, salute. Cheers. Yeah, it's very nice. That's a really, really nice beer. And like I said, I have come across quite a few Belgian style beers in Italy, and I think I think that's the thing with Italy. The Belgian beers would suit the Italian culture a little bit because they are they're kind of sippers, to be honest with you. And they're things that you sit down with, you have a chat, and you just sip it and kind of enjoy it. That's one of the really interesting things about the Italian beers, and that's what they do with their wines. As I say, the Italians tend to treat their beers very much in the same way that they would with wines, and that's probably why they like the sour beers as well, because they've got that kind of sharp, tart, vinous quality to them. But this is, if we rate this, I think I'm going to stick with saying that this beer is a Belgian style blonde ale. It definitely is. It's very nice though. Thumbs up to Birra Baladin for this one. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this beer again. It really is very, very nicely done. So let's try and break this flavour down then. So middle of the palate, you've got that nice bready base. That just blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you start to get the kind of thicker, doughy qualities there. But one thing I would say about this beer is the mouthfeel doesn't get too thick. This beer is not... by no means is it as thick and as oily as you'll get from some of these Belgian beers, and I suspect that probably, knowing what the north of Italy is like, it's quite a mountainous place, so probably the quality of the water that these guys have is very good. So perhaps this beer kind of has the same thing that happens with a lot of the Norwegian, the Scottish, Irish, Icelandic beers. The water just feels very clean, and that makes the mouthfeel feel a little bit lighter than it actually is. That is the thing you'll really notice about this beer, is just how kind of clean it is in its mouthfeel. And at the same time though, it's absolutely packed with flavour. But like I say, in the middle of your palate you get those lovely doughy, bready, yeasty kind of qualities, and then you can feel the coriander. The coriander flavours come out as if they're more just infused into the flavour. The further you go into the aftertaste, it gets a little bit more... it dries out a little bit, it becomes a little touch kind of spicy and things like that, which is nice. In the very centre of your palate, you've got a little bit of a kind of caramelly... there is a little touch of a caramelly, biscuity quality there. It's almost even a little bit like sweet corny or something like that. It does, and that'll be the alcohol side of the beer coming out, of course. The alcohol really comes out with that sort of caramelly, biscuity flavour, but you can really get that in the middle of your palate, and it's quite oily in the centre of your tongue too, but nowhere near as oily as you would get from a Belgian brewed blonde ale, if that makes sense. But the way that the malt and the yeasty qualities together go together in this one is very, very nice. So again, thumbs up to Birra Baladin for the way that this beer kind of pulls things together. Yeah, I really like this one. I mean, if we could get this regularly in Scotland or even here, this would be a good sessionable go-to beer. I would buy 2 bottles of this instead of buying 2 bottles of Leffe to go to my friends' parties and things like that. No problem. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, then in the back corners of the palate, you get a little bit of you definitely get a little touch of that earthiness in the back corners of the palate. But as you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you start to get a nice kind of floral aromaticity to this beer. It is a little bit noble-like in its hop qualities. I mean, when we talk about noble hops, of course, it's the German Hallertau and Tittnanger. Some of the Polish hops are like that, the Lubelski. Of course, you've got the Czech Sats, Žatec hop, and of course you've got the Dana and Styrian Goldings and things like that from Slovenia too. This one, I don't know how you can say, but I think with the Italian hops, and it's something that I picked up from maybe Peroni a little bit, I suspect that they use Italian hops in their beer, but it just, the Italian hops, I think, seem to come across as being a little bit crisper in the floral aromaticity. It's got a very distinctive crispness to it that you won't quite get in the same way as you would with the German or the Czech hops. They come across as a little bit smoother, but the floral aromaticity in this beer is just that little bit crisper, I think, compared to its German and Czech counterparts. So that's an interesting point to make about this beer. And as you go round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, and the grassiness almost just feels a little bit fresher too, which is kind of interesting, but it still has that smoothness that you'd expect from the Slovenian, Polish, Czech, German hops. It's got that kind of thing to it. It's the floralness that really, the floral qualities that makes the hops in this beer a little bit unique, I think. But yeah, that's nice how it goes together. On the fruity side of things then, as I always say, behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And for me, this one, it's kind of what you would expect, to be honest. You've got a little bit of that peary, appley ester in there. As I said earlier, you've got a bit of a banana, apricot-y flavour coming out in the middle of your palate as well. If you push further forward from the centre of your tongue, you'll get the banana notes coming out of the beer. It does become a little bit more apricot-y later on, and there's almost, I don't know if it's right to say there's not really mango or anything to this one. I think it's fair just to stick with the fact that it's apricot, little bit of banana. I really don't get much of the orange peel out of this beer, to be honest. I think it is the apricots, bananas, a little bit of pear, and a little bit of an appley ester. There's maybe a little touch of a kind of sultana flavour to this one, like a dried white green grape sort of thing. But overall, if you rate this beer, if you consider it as a Belgian blonde, then it's a very nice example of the style. I think they've done a great job of this, and it has a little bit of that Italian touch to it, of course, with the way the hops, that slightly crisper floral quality that's in the hops there, and the malt base, the way that the malt base and the yeasty qualities kind of interact, I think, is very, very nice as well. So yeah, this beer gets a big thumbs up from me. This is a style that I really enjoy right enough, so bear that in mind when you're watching the review. I'm a big fan of the Belgian style blonde ales, but I have to say Birra Baladin have done a good job with this one. In terms of the mouthfeel then, as I said, this one to me feels a little bit lighter and cleaner than you might get from some of the Belgian blondes. I think it's fair to describe this beer as being, mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite crisp in this one. The mouthfeel, in some regards, it has a little bit of an oily quality to it, but like I said earlier, it comes across as very clean. And as I say, I suspect the Italians like their beers quite crisp, just because of how hot a country it can be. But then again, these guys are from the north of Italy, so obviously not one of the hotter parts of the country. But it has a nice blend of oiliness, crispness, and I think wetness to the mouthfeel. I think it's fair to describe it as that. The malt base and the yeasty qualities in this one, it's got a good smoothness to it, but it becomes sweeter the further you go into the aftertaste. The fruitiness is quite nice. There's a little bit of pungency to the fruit in this one. And you've also got a good little bit of IBU to this beer as well. I think you're looking maybe about 30 or 40 IBUs to this beer. But overall, like I say, if you enjoy Belgian blondes, if you like, for example, Leffe, you're going to enjoy this one. And this one is a little bit like a craft. It's almost, well, Leffe originally was a craft beer, but this one is a little bit like a craft version of Leffe. And as I say, the cool thing, the unique thing about this beer is that it is made with 100% Italian ingredients, and you get little nuances of that throughout the beer as well. It's maybe, the more that I'm letting my palate kind of progress into the aftertaste, you get a little slight touch of woodiness to this beer as well. But it goes together really well. This is definitely one where it's all about how the flavours kind of merge together rather than being punchy in any one regard. But I think Birra Baladin have produced a really nice beer here, and as I say, cool to try one that's made of 100% Italian ingredients. And hopefully I can review some more Italian beers for you over the next little while. I would love to do them a little bit more regularly, because I know that the quality is very good. They're just very difficult for us to get in the rest of Europe, and I think outside, I think you have to go to Italy really to get a lot of these different beers. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Nazionale, a 6.5% Belgian style blonde ale from Birra Baladin. in Piozzo in the northwest of Italy, close to Torino. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Birra Baladin as well, and hopefully I can return to these guys in the near future. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys very soon. The NazionAle, 6.5% Belgian style blonde ale from Birra Baladin in Piozzo in the northwest of Italy. Slange, skål, salute. Cheers. Make sure you check out this beer.